when you look at how conferences used to be before TED arrived, TED kind of cracked it interestingly. They said, take an accomplished person, put him in a time box. Yeah, what you get is pithiness. But what we realized after having watched many TED talks is that the moment you put a person on a pedestal and give him a microphone, it becomes a dispenser of advice. And it's 18 minutes of sometimes self-congratulatory ramble too. So we said, why can't we have a format that forces or creates enough constraints that create or that generate pithy insights and stories behind them. So we came up with this format called the Think. Now, here's what will happen in the Think. Let me just take you through the format first. So this is our theme. You heard that. Design, technology, or business. Which of these will lead us to the future we all desire? There'll be 4 segments in these 30 minutes. Segment 1, insights. So 2 pre-crafted insights. An insight is an epiphany, a revelation. Something that kind of changed their worldview when they heard it and realized it. So it's got an aha. It's those when unusual dots connect unexpectedly and a new worldview altering meaning emerges. That's an insight. So these 3 people will share 2 insights each. And these insights, we told them, constraint is no more than 140 characters. Right? So that's how the insights are going to be. So insight 1, insight 1, insight 1. The way they are sitting is design, technology, business. And we'll follow this sequence always. Design insight, business, technology insight, business insight. Design, technology, business. In 3 minutes, we'll have 6 insights. Right? Hold your breath. And then segment 2, stories behind the insights. Now, these insights that they're going to be sharing were not plucked out of thin air. They happened after some amazing real-world experiences that led to those realizations. We would like to hear those. So then, story 1, story 1, story 1, story 2, story 2, story 2, all told in no more than 3 minutes. And if they go beyond 3 minutes, there's a tabla that goes off. Like that. Segment 3, ideas from the cusp. Now, design idea will not be shared by design domain expert. The business and technology experts will share design ideas first, 1 each. Then technology ideas shared by others, not the technologists, not Puneet. And then business idea by these 2. So we're creating a cusp. And segment 4 is the domain expert acknowledging the ideas that came in. I mean, he'll be kind of generous with his, and then he'll share his own idea on top of that, the kind of idea that will take us to the future we desire. And there we'll close it. That's it. Shall I turn on the sync then? So the sync is on. Tabla. Start with you, Deepak.
Yeah, so I represent design. My first insight, enabling simplicity is complex.
My insight, take a pause and really try to think hard about all the magic that technology has created in your life.
Business. Businesses of tomorrow will be driven by living customer experiences. Else, those businesses will rest in peace.
Design again, my second insight. We are all product builders here. And as product builders, we need to be inclusive by designing for the excluded.
Brace for technology to create automation that will impact the very fabric of the life in ways you possibly can't imagine today.
Create your own history of future before you create it for your customers.
That was segment 1. So we did it this way so that it kind of piques some interest and kind of tickles you for what's coming. Next is stories behind those insights. What we'll do is now we'll put up the insights on top. Those are the design insights, and we'll have the first story going. Tabla.
So enabling simplicity is complex. How many of you folks write documents and emails? Everybody. See, how many of you bold or underline things you want to emphasize? Everybody. Hopefully, it's a simple design. So way back when, we actually did that design in Word. It only took 1 million prototypes. It only took 1 million conversations with business and technology to actually get it shipped for the next release of Office. So what made it complex? Um, Getting to a simple design is complex. It comes from a number of different iterations. It comes with a number of different conversations with our users, as well with the disciplines that build them. That's one. The second one is conviction and galvanizing the set of product builders to actually get them built. And that comes from only the quantity of conversations. And it was from this experience that I actually realized that the combination of BXT is incredibly important to enable simple experiences to happen.
So I want to tell you this real life story. Many years ago, I had taken this flight and had landed in Toronto. It was an 18-hour flight. Landed, I think, around 8 p.m. there. Massively jet lagged. I decided to walk around the street, and I was not really in my senses. I think the jet lag really hit me bad. And after some time, I realized that it was 2 o'clock in the night, and it was all bright, so I had no sense of sort of time and place. And suddenly my phone rings, and I'm talking to my 2-year-old daughter. Okay, and something happened in that moment. It felt like magic to me. And mind you, at that time I was in Bell Labs, and my day job was designing mobile cellular networks. So as an engineer, I could describe what happens when you turn on a phone call, what piece of code runs, and what happens when a voice data is transmitted. No amount of my engineering qualification, my understanding of cellular network could take that magic away from me. I was really, really in a sort of state for trance, and that changed me forever. Ever since then, every piece of technology, it looks like magic to me. And that really has had a big impact in expanding the art of the possible in my life. So if I see pressing some buttons and an Uber car appears next to me, even though my day job is building mobile applications and digital solutions, it feels like magic. And my mind is talking about, hey, can we apply this idea to medical emergencies? There is emergency, somebody presses the button, the nearest medical interventionist come and can take care. When I'm playing a virtual reality PlayStation game with my daughter, and I'm sort of feeling the magic, the thought that is coming in my mind is, won't it be great if my daughter could sort of get into this virtual world and float around the human body and see the inside of human body in all that glory. So what you take 2 months to learn, she could perhaps learn in two minutes. I was recently in a jungle in a palm oil function, and I saw what mess was being created when the trucks were coming and oil needs to be picked up, all sort of screwed up. And I see this nice example about a new AI algorithm which can detect what's there in an image. And my mind is imagining, can I do the same magic? Can we put a bunch of cameras which can record where trucks are and what the situation is, and the algorithm is managing this logistics which 10 human beings are not able to do. Finally, today morning, when I was describing over the breakfast to my wife about this insight that I'm going to give, I said, do you relate to this technology being magic in your life? She thought for some time, and she said, yesterday, she was preparing some food that she was very excited about. She thought about my father, who stays 10 miles away from where we are. And she did this dunzo for the first time. And my dad sort of calls her over video conferencing, just appreciating the food that she had prepared. And she said, I was enjoying the experience of creating food here. And your dad could feel the aroma and taste 12 miles away. And what happened is truly magic. The point really is, if you start seeing these things as magic, it changes your frontier, and your ability to imagine the art of the possible expands like you have never imagined.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
So talking about food, how many of you get hungry here? A lot of people don't get hungry, is it? Okay. So almost everyone gets hungry. And when you get hungry, what do? You take food. And imagine it's the lunchtime, you go to a food court, and essentially you make transactional food choice at that point, instinctive choice. In fact, there is a research in the Western countries which shows that almost two-thirds of the people do not know what kind of food they will eat 1 hour before the lunch. Okay, and 40% of them make choices when they are essentially, they take their mobile phone and make that choice. Now, if you're a quick service restaurant business on the other side, and it could be sandwiches, it could be burgers, could be pizza, salads, anyone, it's an existential threat to you if you are not having your business identity defined in your smartphone. Okay. And you are essentially looking at that point to convert a transactional, instinctive customer to a loyal customer. Okay, and actually that's the problem that we encountered with one of our customers for whom we worked very closely. And when we went into identifying what kind of problems their customers had, the consumers like you and me had, they said, I think they're digital natives. So they're saying, hey, I need to be in a position to order anytime, anywhere, any device, any channel, and should be able to pick up the food from the store that I want. I should be in a position to, you need to treat me royally, but I need to make the decision about what food I want to eat. And you need to have continuous engagement with me. And as a QSR business, obviously they were looking at how do I build the subconscious brand in the minds of consumers like you and me about the brand identity of the food they have. How do they drive the demand P&L, and how do they really increase the reach? And then we essentially started working on 4 different items as a business partnership. One, we worked with them in defining a design office. And that design office, we conducted almost, I would say, thousands of scientific experiments, co-innovated scientific experiments to see which one of them should actually go to the consumers. That's one. The second thing which we did smartly was creating a presence on the mobile, right from, how do you convert someone at prospecting stage to someone who can actually buy the food. Third, we did something smart on the marketing side, which is instead of sending one type of email to all the customers, and they have almost 45,000 branches across the globe, how do you convert them into personalized emails, which meant almost 220 email templates in which the heading was very clear. The food for you is going to, the food that you can buy under $5, $4.99 actually, and putting the image of the food, the right kind of food, whether it's a turkey, whether it's a sandwich, right kind of vegan sandwich and whatnot, which essentially increased their sales by almost 6%. And finally, we made them loyal customers by ensuring that we identify them, we understand their preferences, and make the relevant offers to them on the important dates, birth dates, important days, and also ensuring that they are able to make use of that in the right form and shape. So, but for those things, but for those series of steps, I don't think, but for those living experiences, this business would have ceased to exist, would cease to exist. So that's the change that we brought about.
Very interesting.
So, my second insight, how many of you folks have felt excluded anytime? Just one. Two. Okay, I'll tell you about my life. 20 years I've spent in cities, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, Trichy. And now I knew how to read and write the languages in these cities. There were many conversations I remember where people would slip into their language of choice and I would feel excluded. Now, as technologists, we believe that technology is empowering. But is it really so? So, my experience comes while designing for Microsoft Kaizala. It's a communications software which allows people who are in the workforce, frontline workers, to contribute to organizational workflows. Now, what traditionally exists are forms and lists in which you have to enter data. These guys, they don't know how to do that. But they actually contribute to a lot of the workflows that actually happen in all of our organizations. They are almost pivotal to actually enabling those workflows to happen. So we actually studied them, we researched how they did it, and what we found out was they did it by just using pictures. So we made that central to our organizational workflow. And you know what happened when we actually made it? Is actually folks like you and me, it became mainstream for us,
Wow.
not just for them. So it was an elegant solution that actually we designed for people who were excluded, and then finally it became mainstream for everybody. So, and I think as technologists, we have to recognize exclusion as a key factor, and then kind of include them in this process of designing for them. Because if we can design elegant solutions for them, it will almost inevitably turn out to be solutions for everybody.
Very nice. Intuitive is what the thing is. It became. All right. Go ahead.
Yeah. So let me tell you about this very interesting conversation I had with a colleague of mine in the Silicon Valley. So I had just taken my first ride in a self-driving autonomous car. So I was, like I described earlier, I was sort of overjoyed with the magic that I witnessed in front of me, just on the road, not knowing what is happening. And we started this conversation, and this guy was focusing on blockchain as a technology, and we discussed on multiple topics. We talked about autonomous cars, I talked about my experience, we talked about blockchain, and we were talking about this concept of something called smart contracts. It's an idea in blockchain technology where you have a piece of code which can actually execute real contracts as you and I sort of get into in normal life. And then this conversation happened. The conversation was this. Imagine, morning I have to come here. I use an Uber-like app to order a car. And this time, as opposed to a driverless car comes to my premises. I go where I'm going. The driverless car or the algorithm that is controlling the driverless car gets paid. And the car continues to do this, does a bunch of more rides, collects some money, uses part of the money to refuel itself, perhaps uses part of the money to go to a service station and get itself serviced. Over a period of time, that autonomous car saves enough money that it buys another autonomous car. The rest you can imagine, it's plain Excel sheet arithmetic. 1 car, 2 car, 4 car, 100 cars, 5,000 cars. You could have a hundreds of millions or $1 billion business created using an organization. Now we're not talking about automation. That was my point. It's not a tool or automation somewhere. We could have a company which is creating billions of dollars of revenue with not even a single human being. In the blockchain terminology, we call it distributed autonomous organizations. Imagine when we see that kind of automation, and it's not very far away. You could imagine an Amazon without an Amazon. I buy something, there is an automated factory which produces something, there is an automated truck which is already running in US roads, which takes it to the warehouse. There's a drone that picks up and delivers it right to my doorstep. No human being involved. Imagine the kind of efficiencies it will produce. Imagine the kind of magic this will create, and the change that can happen to the very fundamentals of how we live our lives. I think that's a big inspiration for me about thinking what automation can do and how it can begin to impact. If it can impact supply chain, if it can impact manufacturing, it can impact education tomorrow, it can impact medical diagnostics, not tools, but organizations.
That to me is non-living experience. Uh, I will talk about history of future. So if you just look at the businesses today, I broadly, in the digital era, I classify them in three distinct ways. Set of businesses which are just defending themselves, that is just getting into digital. Second, who are differentiating themselves, which means they are saying, hey, how do I use the digital to become better than my competition? And third is disruptors, right? They are the first movers in the market. Now, any of these three business categories, the common factor, which is underlying common factor, is each one of them is trying to define what we call as history of future. And history of future is scripting what you would say on a podium 2 years down the line as your achievements, and you would write that down today. Now, every time you come across any of these companies in this era, they find it very difficult to say, what will I achieve 2 years down the line? And they turn to us. They partner with us. When they partner with us, we need to have the DNA of defining the history of future. And I'll talk about a personal experience of what we did last year. I took over as the interactive business group lead last year. And the first thing I did was defining the history of future. And these were tall, audacious statements in terms of what we will achieve. They were stretch goals of very, very different types, which were not defined earlier. As an example, we said that we will go for a growth which is unparalleled in the market. We will be the number one in some of the newer areas of interactive. We will undertake certain transformational deals which no one else has taken before. Now, as soon as you define this history of future, the next thing is communication, right? And I went through communication to my direct leadership team, to the wider teams, as well as the leadership above me, both in India and in US. And one of the things that you realize when you define something like this is you get reactions which is, wow, is this possible, to skepticism on the other side, right? But once the dust settled down after a month, one thing which happened is once people got bought into that history of future, each of the studio leads under me, they started defining their own history of future, okay? And their team started defining the history of future, which essentially meant they defined what they will define for future and how they will be accountable for that. Now, once you achieve that, the results actually for us were quite brilliant. One, from a customer transformation perspective, we started imagining something which was, I would say, North Star for them. And it also made us do the internal transformation, not the incremental steps, but internal transformation of a type which we would not have done before on sales, delivery, innovation, all those front. So to me, it's important that if you want to attempt the history of future for your clients, you need to have the courage of defining it for yourself, for you to have the confidence that you can do it for your clients.
Great. So that was segment 2, which was stories behind those insights. The next segment is ideas at the cusp. And like I said, we'll first have design ideas, except that Deepak won't share his. Design ideas will come from Puneet and Sridhar. And then we'll go technology, then we'll do business. Go ahead, Puneet.
I think when I was hearing about your idea about how you used visual cues or pictures to communicate, the audience was somebody who is not literate in that language, who cannot understand that language. And an inspiration that immediately comes to my mind is, why not apply the same idea to another audience which is very close to my heart? And I've seen some of my friends' families very close. Children who have significant learning disorder. Okay? And they are at a disadvantage. One, they have a disorder. Second, all the education learning material that is available out there is not created for them. Hardly enough material is available which is designed for them. Now, what artificial intelligence today is doing, if you have followed the latest development in AI, one of the most exciting spaces is how do you get machines to become creative and express using pictures. Google has this doodle program. So you give an idea and it can sketch it out. Imagine we can create artificial intelligence which can take traditional knowledge base, traditional learning material, convert it into a visual communication medium. Look at the velocity with which we can sort of manage the disparity that exists in terms of the learning material for the normal kids and the material for kids who have challenge. So I think that would be a great idea perhaps to experiment with.
I liked your said that behind the simplicity there is complexity, right, from design perspective. And I am reminded of a story which is, you look at, you have multi-brand car showrooms which are coming primarily for sales. But if you have multi-brand showrooms which are coming up for service, which is something which will happen very soon, the service engineer needs to know how do you really service these multi-brands, okay? And when you want to do this service brands, you don't have enough time to teach them. You don't have enough time to make them relevant for the jobs. What do? You have a device, head-mounted device with a field of view, which is half my one frame of the specs, right? Just this size. And in that, you have to give them contextual information about the car that is getting serviced. So imagine you have a car which is coming to the service center, you put the probes, and from the probe, you get the information whether it's related to engine, whether it is related to the gas pedal. That information has to come to that field of view, which is half your spec size. And imagine the design that needs to be created for that. Imagine the complexity of integrating the systems. Not only that, you also have to think about uh, how do I get the communication from my back office channel about how do I really fix this car, right? So there is an instructor sitting behind who's also telling you how to fix the car. So you're talking about a communication where visual design which is coming in, you're talking about audio design that is coming in into a field of view for a problem which is of future.
Okay, now, so those were design ideas. Let's go with technology ideas. Deepak, yours first.
So, as you may have probably guessed, I am a fan of inclusivity. I think as we progress in technology, you talked about AI, machine learning, and all of that. But I think as we progress, humans or technology will help humans become more situationally able, which means that in health, in productivity, fulfillment, personal fulfillment, and even in purpose, I think technology will help humans get to that state of bliss. That's what I believe technology is for.
Okay, so I always look at technology to be a responsible technology for a business. And one of the important things yesterday I was flying in through the airport, and one of the things that I realized is when I come through the airport, it's just not my journey, it's just not my transit, but it's actually a part of my day-to-day life. And there can be multiple scenarios. Scenario one, that I get to the airport 45 minutes early and I need to get to the flight. Okay. Scenario two, where I get to the airport and I've got 4 hours at my disposal, and where I'm actually having continuity of my life from here, which means I can shop, I can eat, I can explore the airport, uh, I can I can buy things, and obviously I need to know what to do, spending my time. Now, to me, that is a problem in which the technologies which are existing today can create outstanding experiences. So whether it is pulling out the data about me, about the insights, the kind of marketing offers that can be made, the kind of indoor navigation that can be given to me for me to travel all the way from the exteriors of an airport building all the way to the aircraft, uh, to just my geolocation services. So technologies which are available today applied for a purpose to give me the right level of experience.
Now, business ideas.
This
Deepak.
side, okay. So I think the product is the experience in most instances. Most of us choose services and products based on convenience right now. But I think as we head into the future, convenience is almost going to be a given. But I think what's going to be the differentiator is trust. Trust in the experience. Trust whether the product can deliver your experience. Trust whether the data that I'm giving the service will be kept safe. Trust that you're not making me the product and then making money out of it. So I believe trust is going to be the differentiator in business going forward.
So when you were talking about the need for businesses to live that experience before you can create, I think as a technologist who's very passionate about sort of seeing how the technology makes an impact in the lives of people that you design it for, one thing that I increasingly believe that technology has become so much accessible today that every problem that needs to be solved is either getting solved or shall get solved. Okay, the base utility is going to be a great levelizer. Okay, this is an example that I keep giving everywhere whenever I'm sort of helping people think about how you should sort of think about technology making an impact. And the point that you mentioned about experiences is very pertinent there. Take this example of the same example of what you were talking about, me going to an airport. Now I have an app of an airline. It's good. I can book tickets. I can find out what my frequent flyer thing is. But most of the time I won't even touch it. It's basic utility. It's good that it is there. But is the business looking at what are the moment of truths in my life? I am running late and I'm really anxious that I'm going to miss my flight. I don't care a damn about the 10 features that you provide in the mobile app. All I want to know that the moment I reach the airport, the phone knows. This means the airline company knows that I've reached the airport. It knows when my ticket is. The message comes up and says, "Hey Puneet, you're running late. I know you're restless, but don't worry. This time the traffic is less. Flight is perhaps 5 minutes later. If you just rush quickly, you may just about reach it." Or it may say, "Hey, stop. No point running. You're already too late. Go to counter number 4 and Ria there would help you solve it and make arrangements for the next flight." I think there are incredible amount of opportunities when brands start thinking about these. And as I said, technology is all there. It's about where and how you put it into use.
Right. Last segment and a quick one. 1 minute each now. Each domain expert will now talk about the ideas he heard and also his own. Go ahead, Deepak.
Thanks, Puneet and Sridhar.
Design.
This is about design, yes. You were talking about complex problems as well as trying to make it inclusive. And that's what I believe design is headed towards. We are not only now making things useful, usable, and desirable. We have to balance, in my opinion, the ability to kind of make people inclusive in our progress forward. I think going forward, that's the purpose of design and designers going forward. So yeah.
So let me actually summarize what I just heard by attempting to describe this theme to you. I think I sometimes feel that we overly romanticize this notion of machines taking away what we do today. I don't think our life purpose is to do the 80% of the things that we do today. Okay, I believe there is great opportunity in thinking about how technology can automate our lives. The way in my company, in Global Logic, the way I think about this is I have a notion of what I call an Andrew. Andrew is an intelligent, non-physical partner of mine who over a period of time is continuing to learn and do more and more things that I can do. It can do the kind of stuff that he was talking about in terms of helping me do my job, whether it is repairing car or writing a piece of software, or it could be taking away all those cognitive loads off my mind, then can give me space for more creativity and living life the way I believe sort of human life is supposed to be. So I think great opportunity to think about automation, think about how technology can be my partner and create more space in my life, both in terms of doing my job better and giving me the opportunity to do things that I'm not able to do today.
So first of all three of us will have our jobs. So design, technology, business will exist for any problem that I clearly see. I think two important items that I got from you. One is trust is important in any business. Trust is underlying economy for what we do. And second, you said, how do we really use the technology in the right form to create the right level of experiences? I clearly look at that as humans will always define the technology, but humans will define, it's important that humans define the responsible technology leading to responsible innovation, leading to responsible business. To me, that is important. And once you do that, with the simplicity of design that you talked about and the trust that you talked about, I think we are talking about truly living the experiences which can define the businesses of future.
That's it. I turn off the sync. When we started off, and I proposed the theme, design, technology, or business. Which one of these will take us to the future? To the future we desire. All three of these got together into a little cartel and came back and said, "We'll prove you wrong. It's not an or, it's an and." So I said, "Thank you so much."